It is countdown time. Let it rip, folks. We got a show coming up right now as soon as I get this underway. Hold tight. Welcome to another edition of the Willie Bragg Show. I am your host, Willie Bragg. And before we get started, I'll let you know to hit that like button because it helps with the algorithms. To be sure to subscribe, hit the notification bell here on YouTube, to follow me on Twitch, follow me on Facebook, and on Twitter as well. And that's all I have to say about that because, I just feel like we need to get that out of the way. So, and let me make an announcement that tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Jimmy Sutherland and I will be co-hosting the Willie Bragg Show, and we'll be having a discussion on what I call Sunday Night Politics with Jimmy Sutherland. She's great to co-host with and great to talk politics with. So that's what we'll be doing tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So anyway, when I got up early this morning, I saw a video by Vaush that kind of irritated me. Seems like that Vaush irritates me. Excuse me. Vaush Limbaugh irritates me a lot. I have to address him as that because he's just that irritating. And so, I mean, it just, I tried giving him, I tried giving him the benefit of the doubt. I really tried to, when I first heard of him about this time 2 years ago, I tried giving Vaush the benefit of the doubt. I honest to God, I tried. And it's not that his takes are always bad, but when he takes a bad take, it is a really bad take and is quite unsocialist, in my opinion. And I'm not trying to sit there and be a freaking gatekeeper, but I know a bad take when there is one. And there are some takes that are just quite anti-socialist from my perspective. It irritated the piss out of me when he went on the attack mode against Briahna Joy Gray. Some of the horrible things he said about her over the past few years. And he's not the only bread tuber that went on the attack mode against Briahna Joy Gray. There's been others that attacked her. Shank Ugert's attacked her pretty badly. A lot. Anna Kasparian has attacked her. There's been various people on the online left, that so-called online left, that attacks her, and and basically claims that she's some kind of apologist for the alt-right or what have you. And it irritates me when you have actual leftists being accused of being right-wing by people who are to their right. And that's what's happened with Briahna Joy Gray. She's an actual bona fide leftist who's being criticized by people to her right, and they're pointing fingers at her, acting like she's right-wing. And I'm just, again, when I saw the attack that was done against her by Vaush, and then Xander Hall, that that dweeb, watching his take on as he simps over Vaush the other day. It was just quite a cringe fest. So Vaush Limbaugh has a tendency to attack a lot of these bread tubers who are bona fide, real deal leftists. And some conspiracy theories have been made about Vaush, and why he is so popular and all that. And is he really tied in with the CIA and all that? And I was like, wow, that's a bit of a stretch, what have you. But in light of what he said here, in light of what he said here, I mean, I have to start to rethink about that accusation that's been made against him because, I mean, come on now, you think about it. It's Vaush Limbaugh. I mean, that's what we're dealing with, right? Yeah. So, whoops. No, we don't want to do that. So, basically, it's like this. And I did something that I shouldn't have done here, but that's okay. Okay. Well, let me do this here. Let me take care of that here. Now Vaush has decided to attack Jeremy Corbyn, and I think most of our audience here know who the heck Jeremy Corbyn is. He is, of course, the leader of the British Labour Party. One could call him essentially Britain's better Bernie. That's the best way to describe Jeremy Corbyn. He's basically Britain's better Bernie. I would also say he's today's modern day Michael Foot. And I had a photo that I was going to share with y'all of Michael Foot, but I accidentally made it disappear. I'm not going to go back and retrieve it. It would just kind of ruin the mood of the video trying to retrieve that photo. So it is what it is. But getting back to what I was saying, Jeremy Corbyn he was the leader of the Labour Party, and he's been extremely smeared by the British right wing in the British press. There's a lot of Americans that have also went out on the attack mode, have made all these horrible accusations about him, and one of the worst ones, and very untrue, by the way, they have accused him of being anti-Semitic. It's untrue. I have to go and fight with people online against that horrible accusation made against Jeremy Corbyn in the last few years. And I'm sure that I will be fighting with other people online again over that stupid accusation that's being made against Jeremy Corbyn. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play you the video from Vaush Limbaugh of him attacking Jeremy Corbyn. And I'm going to interrupt with some very productive criticism of Vaush Limbaugh's bullshit. I'm going to put on 1.25 for the sake of time. So let's see here. Okay, we'll get started. Let me get the screen filled on full, and we'll listen to this charlatan. Okay.
Jeremy, what are you saying?
What about those pushing for negotiation, for diplomacy, often criticized for being Russian puppets, yet deeply concerned about this, what could be a global conflagration, or even what's happening just alone to the Ukrainians? You have 1,000 religious leaders in the United States calling for a ceasefire. Bishop Barber, we played a portion of his speech where he said the war is immoral, it is illegal. He fiercely criticized Putin, but said negotiation has to be the way.
Okay, here's the thing that I don't understand. When people, I'm going to assume some people are acting in good faith. When they say we need to negotiate, we need to do this, we need to do that, Ukraine is willing to negotiate. The terms are they get the fuck out of their land. See, in a regular war with no threat of nuclear Armageddon and no promise for negotiation, if Ukraine won, do you know what they would do next? They wouldn't stop at the border between Ukraine and Russia. They would conquer Russia, or at least parts of it, or at least try to conquer parts of it. Nowhere at any point has Ukraine made that commitment. Therefore, it is already starting the negotiation on even terms. Namely, if you withdraw now, this conflict ends. This is not an interminable conflict. This will end if you end the war.
You don't know what happened in 1991, Vaush, when the Cold War ended. So let me refresh your memory. You weren't even alive, so maybe you need to know what happened when the Soviet Union ceased to exist. The new Russian Federation made an agreement with NATO, made an agreement with the West, and the agreement was this: these countries in Eastern Europe, the Warsaw Pact countries, were not to go and join NATO. That was the agreement. The former Warsaw Pact countries were not to join NATO. In the late 1990s, in the end of the Clinton presidency, throughout the Bush-Cheney years, throughout Obama's years, throughout the Trump years, and through the beginning of the Biden years, one by one, a bunch of these countries in Eastern Europe that were part of the Warsaw Pact started joining NATO one by one. They felt threatened. Now, you think that you're one of those shitlibs that think everybody is pro-Russian, that doesn't take a pro-Ukrainian line. And, and that's on you. But the United States and the North American Treaty Organization basically broke their promise with the Russian Federation. Now, I'm no fan of Putin. I will make that clear. And I'm no fan of CIA talking points either. The United States and NATO broke their promise. And this is why this is a reflex. Any country would have done what Russia have done in this regard. And you don't seem to understand that. Yes, Pastor William Barber was acting in good faith because we're talking about countries with nuclear weapons. We're talking about countries with nuclear weapons. The United States got nuclear weapons. Russia's got nuclear weapons. Russia's friend, China's got nuclear weapons. When you got the United States and you got Russia and you got China with nukes, and everybody's getting pissed off with each other, and one country or the other, no matter which country uses it first, and we got some irresponsible politicians here in the United States talking about first use of nuclear weapons. Media people like Sean Hannity. I mean, and you got people who are talking about boots on the grounds like John Bolton. Congratulations, Vaush. Congratulations. You're a neocon.
So Ukraine is already implicitly willing to negotiate under those terms. That's already.
No, Vaush. Ukraine has exacerbated the situation. They have exacerbated the situation, and they have actually got the United States by the balls, even controlling attitudes of the U.S. government toward certain politicians, certain journalists, certain social critics. They even questions America and questions NATO's attitude and positionings toward Russia.
Ready, the mark of it. So when they say we should be more willing to negotiate, what you actually mean is Russia should be allowed to keep conquered territory. To which the question is, why would we allow them to do that? Why would you?
Okay, there's a lot of ethnic Russians that live in the Ukraine. And when the CIA toppled the government in the Ukraine in 2014, there's been a massacre and against the Russian people that lives in the Ukraine. Russian lives matter too,
Why would Ukraine allow them to do that?
Your response.
I welcome the call by 1,000 religious leaders and many, many other people. And I've had a number of very interesting discussions all around Washington yesterday on the possibilities of promoting the idea of a internationally organized ceasefire and negotiations.
Also, there's no reason to ever trust Russia when it comes to a ceasefire. They lied at every stage, all the way up to their invasion, and they never respected the ceasefire agreements under the Minsk 1 or 2 agreements. There's just...
What, you think we're going to sit there and trust whatever the United States said? The United States said there were weapons of mass destruction in Iraq, Vaush, and a lot of idiots believed that there were weapons of mass destruction. And one of the people that are going to be speaking at Rage Against the War Machine this coming weekend was a UN weapons inspector. And he said that there were no weapons of mass destruction. Had people been listening to Scott Ritter instead of listening to Benjamin Netanyahu, who was the foreign minister in Israel during the Ariel Sharon time period when he was the prime minister, and listen to Scott Ritter instead, we would not have 1 million dead Iraqis today, Vaush.
No reason to believe they would actually follow by it. They would just continue to lie and push for territory. The fact that they're unwilling to respond to international pressure is the reason we're in this situation. It seems like international pressure didn't bring us any good. All the sanctions and all the negotiations and all the organized ceasefires in the world did not work.
Damn right that sanctions did not work. They were not necessary to have sanctions. All the sanctions did is actually benefited their economy. Not that I am opposed to the Russian economy or any other economy having an improved conditions and having their situation improved. Not that I oppose that, but here's the thing about that everything that the United States and the West has tried doing actually has exacerbated, made situations worse, the way I see it. And negotiation needs to take place, but there's just too much sanctimoniousness over the Ukraine, and you're blind to the fact on what kind of a country Ukraine is. Ukraine is one of the most corrupt countries in Europe. One of the most right-wing, too, by the way, Vaush. One of the most right-wing countries.
Absolutely and totally condemn the Russian invasion of Ukraine and the brutality that goes with it.
Corbyn literally went on RT to deny that Assad did gas attacks. He knows what he's doing here. Man, Rip.
Okay, Vaush. Here's where you're so full of shit. You and all these shit lives sounding like John Bolton. John Bolton was one during the Trump years calling for the United States to go and side with Al Qaeda to bring down Assad. You know what happens when you bring down Assad? You take a kind of a bad situation and you make it 10,000 times worse. You take a secular government that's kind of somewhat a little bit heavy-handed and semi-authoritarian, and then you replace it with religious fundamentalists. You're going to make a partly rainy, little sprinkly rainy day and turn that into a category 5 hurricane. The very idea that y'all think that Assad is the most evil man ever just blows holes in your theory right there. It's been proven that there was no chemical attacks done by Assad. Of course, you're not going to go and believe that anyway, Vaush.
Did Corbyn seriously deny the Assad gas attacks? Wow, he actually did. Unbelievable. He's done it.
I denied the so-called Assad gas attack, Vaush. I do too.
This exact same thing before. Refuses to blame Assad for chemical attacks in Syria, demands all sides work together on a ceasefire. Man, I can't believe I'm saying this, but I'm really hitting it. I'm glad he's ousted as Labour leader. If he...
Yeah, I guess you want Tony Blair to come back, don't you, Vaush? You want New Labour to come back. Well, we know that you call yourself an anarcho-Bidenist. That's American-style Blairism right there. Bill Clinton, George W. Bush, Barack Obama, and Joe Biden, all continuing the shit livery of Tony Blair, USA style.
He ever won as Labour leader and then ended up basically just parroting Russia's line on foreign policy, it would be a blow to socialism like globally. He's better in domestic policy, but holy shit. That's the Daily Mail. Might not be the best source. It's everything. You can Google it. It's everywhere. It's not just the Daily Mail. Yeah, it's so bad. Like, you guys don't understand how bad it is. Like, Assad is the guy so bad that he single-handedly plummeted his country into ruin and sent millions of people on refugee hikes that ended up causing the largest refugee crisis of the past half century in Europe. And then
Oh my God. What planet are you on? You know why that there was a refugee crisis going on in Syria? It's because of the United States policy toward Syria, toward Iraq at the time. The situation with ISIS that was created, it was a result of the Bush-Cheney doctrine. And that kind of created a vacuum when you went and toppled a secular thuggish government like Saddam Hussein, and you replace it with kind of fundamentalist type people, and then you create a vacuum out there. You're going to create something like an ISIS organization and other fundamentalist organizations out there that's going to exist and doing what the things that they were doing. You want to know what Bashir al-Assad was doing in Syria? He was protecting Christians that lived there. He was protecting Jewish people that lived there. He was protecting Muslims that lived there. And he was protecting them all from groups like Al Qaeda, groups like ISIS, and some of these other fundamentalist organizations that lives out over there. If I lived in Syria, I would rather live under Assad. And you can quote me on that. You can quote me on that all day long. Not that I want to live under Assad, but Assad is the best out of a bad situation in that region. I can't believe you. I really can't believe you, Vaush. You're a neocon, like people said. You are Vaush Limbaugh.
After all of that, Corbyn turns around and goes, yeah, well, he's probably not using the chemical weapons that everyone knows he's using against civilians. Essentially, like, covering up war crimes for a dictator. Insane. Again, like, this is a common problem with a lot of lefties, where, like, if you ask them for their positions on fundamental values, they're really reasonable. Corbyn, I think, has really good positions when it comes to, like, healthcare and public welfare and a bunch of great stuff like that, you know? But then every position they could possibly have that's favorable to Russia is for, like, no reason. No reason. It's so weird. Just a lot of lefty brain rot. A lot of lefties just think that in order to be, like, a leftist geopolitically, you have to side with the other narrative. And you're siding with the military-industrial complex if you agree with basic factual things.
No, Vaush, no. But let me tell you, there's a lot of things that the military-industrial complex and the State Department would do to kind of perpetuate a lot of hardship around the world, and it's done to satisfy conflicting ideological special interest groups in this country. It's done to satisfy everyone from evangelical Christians on the right wing of the Republican Party to satisfying various social justice warrior type progressive shit libs on the pseudo left, and it's all under one umbrella called neoconservatism. Welcome to neoconservatism, Vaush. You're going to become the next Elliot Abrams. Just remember that.
And the destruction of life in Ukraine, the loss of lives of conscripted Russian soldiers is awful and appalling. This war could drag on. The destruction of life in Ukraine, the loss of lives of conscripted Russian soldiers is awful and appalling. This war could drag on and on.
First of all, the Ukraine. Second of all, kind of weird to conflate the Ukrainian civilians being killed and the Russians invading being killed. I mean, they're conscripted, but yeah.
And on.
What about Russian people dying in the Ukraine and being oppressed in the Ukraine? What about Nazis in the Ukraine, Vaush, in the military? What about the treatment of the LGBTQ community? I know that you're with the LGBTQ community yourself, Vaush. Your community is treated far worse in the Ukraine than it is in Russia. And I condemn it in Russia too, but they're treated far worse in the Ukraine. It's part of the culture in Eastern Europe. It's part of the culture in Eastern Europe. Everywhere from Poland to Hungary, Ukraine, you name it. And you're condoning it because you're shit lib. You're mad. You're under the delusion about 2016. You're under the delusion about just all you believe the narrative. you're just as silly as the beer-gutted rednecks who were complaining about China and Venezuela, doing what they were doing, supposedly, where the opposite ideological group came up with the same kind of conspiracy theories that the Hillary bots came up with in 2016. And I'm talking vaguely because it would sound like I'm engaging conspiracy theories, which I'm not. I'm saying making fun of people with a conspiracy mindset. And that's what you're doing, Vaush. You're doing just that.
More and more arms could be thrown into the conflict, more and more people would die, and you'd end up with destruction all around. Surely to goodness, here we are in the 21st century, watching in real time a conflict going on. Can we not do better than that? Call a halt to the conflict.
It's not our conflict. It's not we being better. It's Russia did the thing. Russia did this. It's not we. Why is it on? What did I do? What we? What do you mean?
Well, I'll tell you what you're doing. You are enabling, Vaush. You're enabling the same kind of mindset as the morons that follow Sean Hannity and Rush Limbaugh and Mark Levin 2015 and 20 years ago on Fox News and talk radio about the weapons of mass destruction that never existed in Iraq. That's what you're doing. You're just a social media online left version of that. I didn't support it then when Rush Limbaugh and Mark Levin and Sean Hannity and Glenn Beck and the 700 Club and John Hagee were supporting this bullshit. And I do not support it now when you and Rachel Maddow and the Democratic National Committee are doing the same thing.
Have negotiations and agree on a viable future.
Which they'll never specify what they mean by that, because they're too cowardly to just say, yes, I think Ukraine should cede territory to the Russian invasion. They won't admit to that.
Russia.
And you, Vaush, you see the ambulance right there behind you? One thing Ukraine and Russia got in common, they have free universal health care. And you discourage people from Medicare for all marches. You discourage people. You discourage the force to vote movement. And as far as I'm concerned, people who've done that, they're just as low as Mitch McConnell, and they're just as low as the Republicans in Congress and the right wing movement who thinks that a Medicare for all amounts to, the killing fields of Cambodia or some crap like that. So yeah, as far as I'm concerned, spare me your bleeding heart.
The Ukraine can negotiate, albeit
again
to the auspices of that a viable future. If Russia and the Ukraine
he did. He actually goes the Ukraine as default. The only people I see say the Ukraine by default are people peddling Russian propaganda. I guess a lot of old people would, like people who remember the Soviet Union, I guess, but
I have always said the Ukraine all my life. I've heard people say the Ukraine, add the article the in front of the Ukraine. I have always heard people refer to it as the Ukraine. It has nothing to do with being pro-Russia.
But nowadays, like right now, when I see people talking about the war, everyone says Ukraine. The only people I see who say the Ukraine are pro-Russia types. That's not to say
you're being a smear merchant right now.
Nobody does call it the Ukraine innocently. It's just interesting that somebody as politically engaged as him would do that. Why does Russia call it the Ukraine? Because when you say the Ukraine, you're kind of linguistically implying that it's a province, a territory, in context of Russia's. You're referring to it as like a location, Whereas Ukraine, like capital U, like formal, would be a country, an independent country. So a lot of Russian apologists will say the Ukraine because they're referring.
Just as there are silly boomers out there, you're being a silly, immature millennial. I'm not saying all millennials are silly. Not all boomers are silly either, but you are representing the silliness of the millennial generation with this. You did not live during the Cold War, Vaush. You did not live during the Cold War, So you don't have to like Jeremy Corbyn. You don't have to like anybody who's lived during the Cold War, but you have to understand people who lived during the Cold War, they were used to calling it the Ukraine. And I have noticed that some people call it Ukraine. Just simply say Ukraine. Myself, do not go and engage in this kind of smear merchantry. Anyway.
Referring to it as a kind of like fake country, like, yeah, like they say the Donbass. Exactly. But Russia stands won't say the Donbass. They'll say like the Luhansk and Donetsk Independent People's Republics or whatever. Like they'll make an effort to distinguish them legally, you know? Yeah, the South. Yeah, stuff like that. Like it's a region.
Can negotiate, albeit under the auspices in that occasion of Turkey, to ensure that grain supplies flowed out of Russia and the Ukraine through the Black Sea, which are very important to feed people.
The United States of America is an exception, I guess. Yeah, this is very much like a specific linguistic idiosyncrasy. This isn't a universal thing. Saying "the" doesn't always mean you're disrespecting a country. In this specific context, the use of the term "the Ukraine" is used to imply that it's just kind of a frontier province, as opposed.
Simple projection, Vaush. That's what you're doing. You do what you like to do. You are projecting. You're projecting what Jeremy Corbyn is saying, and you're doing this just because you do not like the man. So and you're not a socialist. You just might as well admit it. In the next 15 years. You're going to be on Fox News or you're going to be on Newsmax and you're going to go back telling people how embarrassed you were when you were a socialist. I see the writing on the wall and the kind of person you are right now.
Opposed to an independent country.
In the Middle East and North Africa, then they can come together on lots of other issues itself. And so can we...
Oh yeah, like saying the Sudan is colonial speak, or the Orient, or the Congo. Ever heard that one? The Congo? Because when they said like the Congo, it was like darkest Africa, like a territory to exploit resources and people, not like a country.
Stop having armchair generals in all of our studios discussing how this could happen, that could happen, this could go on and that could go on, and this could be destroyed. Instead, raise the voice for peace and raise the voice for hopes and justice. I support.
This doesn't mean anything. Raise the voice for peace?
The Russian peace campaigners. I support the religious leaders that are calling for a more rational process, and I call upon the leaders of the countries that are closely involved in this to heed those calls.
Isn't it? So Russia, you want Russia to heed those calls. Isn't it interesting how all these give peace a chance types are never saying the one thing you'd think they'd be saying, which is Russia, please fucking back off? Isn't that interesting? You'd think that would be like the main thing they'd be saying. Russia invaded Ukraine. You'd think they'd be saying like, "Hey, please, like, no more war. Russia, please just stop. Just withdraw the territories. Please don't let anyone else die." But they don't say that, do they? Instead, they put the onus on.
Okay, I'll say it. Vaush Limbaugh. I wish that Russia would not invade the Ukraine. But at the same time, I wish that the Ukraine would not create a situation which would not make it necessary for Russia to go into the Ukraine either. And I wish that the United States and NATO and Eastern Europe would not have broken their promise to go and have those former Warsaw Pact countries join NATO to give a situation for Russia to feel threatened. I mean, we can sit there and just wish good vibes and wish the very best of the situation. But you know what? What about the Zelensky government, instead of milking money out of the United States, billions of dollars out of the United States, that could go into clean water in Michigan or clean water in Mississippi, that can modernize our crumbling bridges, that can provide medical care. It's amazing that we can't afford medical care for people. But my goodness, when it comes to sending weaponry or drone strikes in other countries, my God, the money's always there. We got money to kill people in other countries, but we don't have money to go and treat people. It's just amazing what the priority is in this country.
It's on Ukraine to start negotiating, and by negotiating, what they mean is accepting concessions, and what by concessions they mean let Russia keep territory. It runs all the way down to that,
and find a way out of it. All wars end with some kind of peace conference. Let's jump to that stage.
That's not always true at all. But okay.
Well, you know what, folks? Guess what? Vaush is a warmonger. Vaush is essentially a neocon. Vaush is an anti-socialist. Vaush is, Vaush is a demagogue. And Vaush, with the following he has, he's the new Dave Rubin. He's Dave Rubin. He is the new Dave Rubin right now. So he's Dave Rubin with a man bun on the back of his head. Well, actually, he's cut that shit off, but you know what I mean. So, no respect for Vaush. And why in the hell do people follow this motherfucker is beyond me. I don't get it. And what I don't get are people who becomes friends with Vaush when he's talked so much shit about them. And then all of a sudden they become friends with him, when there's a couple of people he's talked horribly about online, and then he met them, and then he starts to meet them, well, not in person, but guests on the shows, and then they start to become friends and all that. So it's amazing, just amazing. So here on the chat line we have Kevin Tewey. Willie, there's a reason some people like you, and there's a reason some people like you, and I think it's your wit, and I appreciate that. Vaush Limbaugh, that's hilarious. I didn't invent that, but I like it, and I stuck with it because I decided to stick with it. So let's see here. And true. All right. I am about to let Vaush have it shortly. Yeah, that was before the show. I said that to you. Let's see. And Snipe Hunter. Hey, how are you doing? Let's see. I made a hello to everybody. And there's Warren. How are you doing? Let's see. Jimmy, how are you doing? Let's see. Fuck Vaush up, Willie. I'm doing my best. Hey, Nikki, how are you? Let's see here. And Lasur, I think that's the name. Base. I try to be based. He's a sock dem, aka liberal. I'm actually kind of a sock dem, but I'm a real sock dem opposed to capitalism, not the kind that end up, actually turn more anti-capitalist. I'm like the kind of sock dem you'd have found in Sweden in 1976 that supported an explicitly anti-capitalist platform. They actually campaign on a anti-capitalist platform, but sadly moved away from it. It was a pretty radical platform. Anyway, interesting to read about that. But anyhow, let's see. Vaush Limbaugh's the type who engages in the dumb semantics argument. He's just a fake lefty is what he is. And he's pro NATO as fuck. Yeah, he is. And I'm for the abolishing NATO. I mean, when the Cold War ended, I was like, it's time to abolish NATO. And to keep NATO around, I mean, just kind of ridiculous. Let's see. He's a child of an Irish old money elite and something supposedly. And I'm not going to go into details, but a pervert too. Let's see. Anyone criticizing Vaush is awesome. Thank you. Let's see. Follow Willie. He's my friend. Let's see. Yes. And y'all follow Nikki, fellow North Carolina online lefty. Let's see. I don't know if he sees us. Oh, yeah. Oh, I see everybody here. Let's see. Say stuff. Let's see. Yeah, I don't think he has a chat on. No, I always chat with everybody at the end. Description says it's a rerun. Let's see here. He usually reads the chat at the end. That's what I do. Okay. All right. I promise I'm not a rerun. Let's see. All right. Chris a Hammer. Thank you. Let's see here. Maybe they should say America back off. Yeah, America likes to be way too aggressive. It's really tiresome. It's like there's a conflict around the world. The United States just can't wait to get involved. Let's see. Let's see. All right, let me take a look through here. The war would be over if the USA wasn't involved at all. And that's the thing right there. It's like whenever something happens, the United States just got to get involved, and it usually ends up being worse when it happens. Let's see. He's live on YouTube right now. Let's see. Maybe the Twitch saying it's messed up. I'll have to take a look at the Twitch in a few minutes. This is actually live. I'm confused. Hey, Where Pilgrim, how are you today? Let's see. All right, I'm taking a look through here all day long. Corbyn's really damaged himself by standing behind Brexit. Generally, I like the guy. Well, it was kind of, maybe he kind of went about Brexit. Maybe the way he kind of went, he kind of went about it in a kind of spin doctorish sort of way. So let's see. He was not anti-vax. He was kind of like, it's up to an individual whether you should do it or not. I told people that I'm vaxxed to the max, but I think it should be your choice if you don't want to be. I'm more concerned with people having health care than I am whether you're vaxxed or not. I'm more concerned about health care. Health care is what I'm concerned about. But, the American society has it backwards. They want to micromanage you through the private profit sector, but they don't want to go and give you something for free. And that's just the American way of doing things. Let's see here. I'm taking a look through here. All right. Fox anarchism is so correct. It is. He's supposedly an anti-commie, an anarcho-commie. He calls himself an anarcho-Bidenist. And when he did, I just decided that he was an absolute clown. So I could never support Vaush. Oh, okay. Let's see. Hey Anthony, how are you doing today? Let's see. Willie's 14 watching on Twitch. Yeah, I do appreciate everybody watching me right now. This is probably the most I've had in a while. So this is really good. So anyway, yes. Let's see here. Yes. He reads comments at the end. That's correct. I surely do. So anyway, I'm going to sign off. I got to take a nap right now because I got a meeting at 5:00, and I got a show again. I'll be back here by 8 p.m. tonight. So if y'all come back here at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Jimmy Sutherland and I will be co-hosting, and we're going to be talking politics and everything. Various issues, various video clips, and we'll provide our perspectives on it. So that's what we're going to do. We do that about once a month and all that. So I hope you come back and join us and join in and be active in the chat, on the chat line here. So if you like what you heard, press like and comment any ways you disagree with what I have to say. We will have a conversation. Feel free to share the content on this channel. As the First Amendment absolutist, it's my duty to inform you to create your own platform and utilize it. Feel free to subscribe to me and my channel here on YouTube, Twitch. Follow me on Facebook and Twitter. And remember, there is an anti-war march next week in Washington, D.C. Rage against the war machine. There's a lot of people speaking out there. And don't let the detractors tell you how much how toxic supposedly that this event is. I mean, you don't have to like everybody who's speaking at the march. You got to realize we're all there to oppose war. So that's what we got to remember. Keep your eye on the prize, and that is to end this war, this madness, to try to prevent World War III. So anyway, let me just conclude by saying always reject corporate media. Get a second opinion. Get 22 opinions if you need to. And I will conclude by saying goodbye to y'all right now, and I will see y'all hopefully in a few hours. Take care. Take care.